Hello and welcome to Writing America, Pages and People. If you're here to learn about an American author and some of their works, then you're in the right place. My name is Rachel Rigolino and I'm an instructor in the English department at the State University of New York at New Paltz. So come on, we'll watch this video and leave some comments below.
I write perhaps to describe. Perhaps the best way for me to put it is, I remember something somebody told me a long time ago, so long ago I don't remember who it was, and maybe something I read. But the purport of what was conveyed to me was conveyed to me when I was in terrible trouble. And somebody said, describe it. Describe it. If you can describe it, you can control it. And if you can control it, you can outwit it. You can get beyond it if you can describe it. In order to describe it, you have to face it. And I think that's true. I know it's been true for me, insofar as you can never say that you, I don't think anything has ever really escaped, but it is perpetually being overcome.
A prolific author, James Baldwin published more than 20 books, plays, and innumerable essays. James Baldwin was born in Harlem in 1924. His stepfather, David Baldwin, was a part-time pastor of a storefront church, and he influenced his stepson to become a teenage preacher. By the time he was a high school student at DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx, however, Baldwin had rejected his religious upbringing, later referring to this time of his life as being part of, quote, the church racket. Baldwin began to immerse himself in the literary and artistic cultural milieu of Greenwich Village and began an extended homosexual affair, which further distanced him from his conservative church roots. Even though he rejected the religious doctrine of his youth, Baldwin returned to the theme of salvation and religious settings throughout his literary career. In addition, his writing is filled with the cadences of the King James Bible and the sermons he heard in the church services during his youth. By 1944, Baldwin had befriended writers such as Richard Wright, whom he greatly admired, and their falling out several years later would be the stuff of literary legend. Baldwin's work began to be published in The Nation and Commentary. In 1948, Baldwin set out to Paris, a trip that would transform his life. Baldwin forged friendships there with other writers such as Truman Capote and Saul Bellow. Citing the oppressiveness of American culture as a reason not to live in America, Baldwin remained in Europe for the rest of his life, although he visited the United States on a regular basis. In 1953, Baldwin published his autobiographical novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, which established him as a novelist. The novel examines an African-American family that is much like Baldwin's own. They have moved from the South up to Harlem, and the patriarch Gabriel is a preacher who struggles against his own sin and the racist society in which he lives. Much of the action takes place in a storefront church and chronicles the coming of age of Gabriel's son, John Grimes. While Go Tell It on the Mountain established Baldwin as a novelist, his essays cemented his reputation at the time as a literary critic and essayist. Notes of a Native Son appeared in 1955, and this collection includes some of his most famous essays. In Everybody's Protest novel, Baldwin compared Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin with Richard Wright's Native Son, a comparison that angered Wright and led to the end of their friendship. In Notes of a Native Son, Baldwin examines his troubled relationship with his stepfather David, whom Baldwin remembers as an enraged man whose anger at social injustice and white people in general impacted the entire family. Baldwin also wrote powerful plays and short stories. The story Sonny's Blues was first published in 1957. In his critical essay on the story, an essay which can be found on the Gale Literature Database, critic Joseph Flippert observes that, quote, the feeling experienced by these characters, all African American, is deep and heavy, akin to the melancholy and depression impossible to explain. Just there. It's called blues, a mental and emotional state arising from recognition of limitations imposed, in the case of African Americans, by racial barriers to opportunity. During the 1960s, Baldwin was active in the civil rights movement. Time magazine famously put him on its cover under the banner, "The Negro's Push for Equality." At the 1963 March on Washington, Baldwin stood alongside other artists and activists. Baldwin's influence on later writers, especially African American writers, has been substantial. Although his prose style was more elaborate and formal than the postmodernists who came slightly after him, Baldwin's examination of race relations and the black family influenced later writers such as Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison, among others. When he died in 1987 in France, Baldwin had become a legend. In a memorial to Baldwin, Morrison posed these rhetorical questions to her dear friend Jimmy. "You knew, didn't you, how I needed your language and the mind that formed it, how I relied on your fierce courage to tame wildernesses for me. You knew. This, then, is no calamity. No, this is Jubilee. Our crown, you said, has already been bought and paid for. All we have to do, you said, is wear it. And we do, Jimmy. You crowned us."